we're rolling. So just finished up camp for 2016. We're joined by Food Dog, Beowulf, and Lonely Dog. And we're just going to kind of talk, and we're just going to flow with the go. That's the plan. So first time doing a camp for you guys like this, what were your thoughts?
The biggest thing we were talking about in the past is 3 days is a ton of material.
Sure.
The hard part is like normally we're kind of like an information overload in about an hour.
20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. The good thing is with Lonely Dog and Eric Noss and Mark Denny, switching from like mentality to mentality did give your brain a little bit of time to think. If it was like any one person for 6 hours straight, it couldn't absorb all of it.
Yeah, I agree. And another neat thing is, like with Guru Lonely, whenever you're teaching, you don't do something that a lot of Americans do that is very exhausting, and that's filler words and like slang and gibberish. Your English is so clean, and to an American, it's like it's refreshing to hear you just teach. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot about like the Brazilians and whatnot that get all of this slang that come in, and every other term is like, okay, you guys, or
Right.
And that in itself is refreshing, let alone the awesome material that you're training with us. So
No, also we made a comment that I feel bad because I barely speak English well, and Lonely's can teach in multiple languages.
how many languages do you speak?
So I speak Swiss German because it's a language in its own. Then German, a little bit of French, and English.
Awesome. Do you feel like you're competent in? Is there any of them that you're like, that's the one that I'm not as good at, or is it just across the board you're used to?
French. I mean, I understand everything, but speaking, the grammar difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand a little bit of Italian, but I don't speak Italian. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, for me, and actually, I was talking to some of my students about this last week. Martial arts is very similar to learning languages. And like the different ways that you can learn a language, one of them is you're just thrown into the language, and you grow up with it, and you pick up words, and as you grow older, you learn. And then the other way is through like college and high school, where you have 1 hour a day that you're learning that language, and then you have to go home and study it. And I think that's very similar to like sparring and fighting is kind of like getting thrown into it. So you're learning the language of stick fighting by sparring and fighting, as opposed to, having years before you of drilling and building up to that point.
I mean, that's how I learned English.
Huh.
So I had English in school, but after these 4 years or what it was, I could not speak any word. So the first time I went to the US to train with Mark, I had about maybe like 5 words. So lucky I brought one of my students who could a bit better English, so that saved me, but I had no English. But then I was really motivated to go back and to learn a bit, but mostly the English came by teaching or learning. I mean, learning martial art, not the language.
Sure, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
How long ago was that?
So the first visit was 97 or 98. Yeah.
And before that, were you training?
All kinds of martial arts. So I started as a kid with Japanese martial arts. So I did some karate, some judo. Later on, I was doing some taijutsu and some weaponry, Japanese weaponry. And so my first really contact with something full contact was boxing. So I fell in love in boxing, like regular Western boxing. Did about I think 12, 13 amateur fights.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yes. So that was really my passion for a long time. Yeah, I was still training some Japanese stuff. I was very interested when I saw the first UFC and grappling, but the only chance for me to learn some grappling was through DVDs, or actually no, videos at that time.
Video VHS.
VHS, yes. So like the main video series I was learning from was like the first video series Bas Rutten did.
Yeah,
so in Holland, yeah, Panther, yes. And luckily I had like a very young judoka. He was interested in learning striking, and I was the boxer, and so I had a dummy to try a little bit leg lock game and grappling, but it was like really amateurish.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, at that point, whenever you're getting exposed to it, anything, is going to be beneficial because, especially like I said, I mean, you're testing things out. You're going to figure out things that don't work and whatnot. How did you guys get your start? Because I know you've been doing it for a long time as well.
We're talking about him fighting. The very first time I fought was in 2006, and Benjamin was there. And I remember saying, "Who's this guy? He's, not a great big guy like you'd expect at a full contact event, but we had this very mild demeanor. Nothing really stood out about him, and he just demolished the guy he fought." Okay, I went, all right, I'm in trouble because I have no idea who I'm getting involved with.
Yeah, I think that one, we saw Lonely pin some guy against the wall and just knee, whack, whack, whack. And all of a sudden we're like, we weren't training for this.
Because, we went in blind. Okay, I've been training in martial arts since 1984, and the thing that was missing in our training was full contact. And so we had our underground class on Fridays where the idea is that we're trying to fill in the gaps, trying to figure out what was missing. And we just beat the living daylights out of each other. And so one of my ideas is when you get to a black belt, it doesn't mean that you're done. It just means that you're at a point now where you're a good student. You now know how to go out and explore and try to better yourself. And part of our mentality is, in order to live a more meaningful, more powerful life, is that we wanted to go out there and find the most difficult thing that we could do and try to conquer it. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and physically, the most demanding thing I could find was the full contact stick fighting. At the time, it was the VHS tapes, and I stumbled across those. I went, okay, there's something here I really like. And then, of course, Black Belt Magazine had the ads in it, and so I'm reading the magazine. Now, mind you, my former instructor didn't like us reading the martial art magazines. He considered them tabloids and things like that.
Wow.
But I still found some value in it, so I still snuck him in. Well, I'm sitting there and I look at him, and he was teaching along with me. I said, "Okay, I'm going to do this someday."
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we're in black belt. We see this banner for Dog Brothers, full contact stick fighting. Mind you, at the time, we had a huge school that only had one punching bag, and we were actually told not to use it too much.
Mind you, our focus was on mechanical development. And in our former instructor, he believed in minimal contact because, injured students don't train. Injured students sue. Okay, so
and also we literally came from like the 1980 martial arts where it's like, look, we can't do this full contact because someone's gonna die.
Yeah.
Because if we were to have you do this, and I hit you the way you're supposed to be hit, you're gonna die afterwards. And so that's the mentality that our former instructor had, and that's the mentality that was kind of bred into us. But we also knew at a deeper level it was wrong.
Sure.
Now, going straight psychology, he said he pulled out this. He's got weird books. He had a book on Japanese death poems. People that were
Whoa.
yeah.
Japanese death poems?
Yeah, guys who are on basically death row, and they're writing poems knowing that they were going to die.
And so at that moment when you know death is imminent, what clarity do you have?
Wow.
And so there's one haiku, we're butchering it, but the main principle was, I've spent my entire life polishing my sword. When I need to pull it, at last it is broken. That effing poem, just right there, because that's our fear. We train, but we didn't know that if it came down to it, if we really had to take. Now imagine we're teaching students, we're teaching other people, and deep down, we're not 100% sure. Terrifying, and it's a real dichotomy because we're like, no, this stuff works, but there wasn't that. There was still that doubt.
And it was that doubt because it was untested. Okay, and so we saw this and we said, okay, this is what's missing. We're going to do this. Okay, and at the time, still trying to be good students, we were trying to be good students, but we decided not to do anything while we're still currently working for our instructor. But eventually there was a falling out, and that freed us up. That untied our hands. We no longer had this obligation. And we at first searched out Guru Crafty, and I sent him a message. I said, we would like to train with you. He says, where are you guys from? And I described the location. I guess he must have MapQuested or Googled it. And he says, do you have any idea how far away you are? Because it's at least an hour and 45-minute drive one way if we don't hit traffic. 3 hours if we hit traffic. And we've been doing that for 10 years.
Wow.
Okay, so we actually started. He originally deferred us to someone who says, no, don't do that. Again, here he is. He's trying to do what's right. He's turning down money because he says, don't do that. Okay, here's guys that are closer. Go to these guys. And we did at first, but again, it wasn't what we were looking for. So we found the opportunity. We started training with him, and again, we've been his full-time students, I think 7 years.
Actually,
years.
the first time we actually started training with him is we were keeping contact with him, and he said, look, I want to do a MMA Kali Tudo for MMA, and I want a team. You send in your resume.
Huh.
So
I remember that.
Yeah, okay. So I sent him my resume, and so he called me up, and he gave me the third degree, who are you? What have you done? Da, da. And he's like, all right, show up in Hermosa Beach at this time. Sweet. So I show up, and I was one of the only guys that showed up. There was 3 other guys there. I'm like, hey, I got my brother, and he wouldn't mind showing up. And then after a while, we were the only guys making it at that point, and then it kind of shifted to gears.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's neat how martial arts can take you, certain paths that, you had not planned on. When you started, because you started fighting in gatherings before you started training with them, really, right? If I got
that was we
our first gathering was in 2006, and I don't think we really started training with them until I'm thinking 2008.
Yeah, we had a guy that same roots, very similar to Denny. They knew each other, and we trained with him a little bit because he was a friend of a friend type of thing.
Okay.
And he's familiar with the Dog Brothers. Did not have the Dog Brothers spirit.
That is huge.
And
I cannot overstress that.
And this is when my first respect for Papadakis came in. So I came in there and I fought a guy. Basically, my coach at the time said, my first fight, you go fight him. And I forget the gentleman's name if I saw him.
He was best not to say names.
Well, and we had a great fight. And it's one of the things where I'm so appreciative that he was my first fight. And it's one of the things he'd done a bunch of fights already. He was exhausted. And I'm this young buck. And he's like, yeah, sure, just don't do knee locks.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So I went out there. No one really got hurt. We just kind of clenched up and didn't do anything. But it was my first fight. And then he's like, you've proven your point. Don't go back out there. You dominated.
Your instructor said
My
that.
instructor said
well, I wouldn't even call him our instructor.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
He was our coach at the time. And
Gotcha.
We were searching. And this guy came up. And mind you, we were martial art orphans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was about 6 months of training with him on and off. And we're like, okay. Well, you've done this. You understand better than we do. Then I saw Nick Papadakis go out there. And he just fought this brutal fight and just completely dominated. Then he came back out, had a fight where he was on the wrong end. Just got smashed up, black eye, just beat up. Then went out and dominated again. Then went out and fought again. Went out and fought again. And I'm like, no. I got way more respect for that dude that got smashed and then came back and fought again. And I'm like, okay, we're missing something. That's the spirit I want to have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had numerous instructors over the years, and sometimes an instructor won't teach you what you should do. They'll teach you what you shouldn't do. So in that coach's case, they were kind of showing you by trying to get you to not do something, they were showing you what not to do.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think every instructor I've ever had has shown me a lot of good things to do, but then there'll be at least one thing that I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to do that, whether it's in martial arts, technique, or in life or whatnot, So very valuable lesson there. Even though he really, is not your instructor and anything, but I mean,
No, we have absolutely no animosity.
Sure.
We learned a lot from him, and I still
Yeah.
appreciate what we got. Like, there's some great knife stuff, and it's one of the things we started to realize that it's more important to realize why a person does something than how he's doing it.
sure.
So like there's a striking set he taught us. I'm like, I don't like this, but if I just threw it away, it would have been wasted. But I'm like, well, why did he teach us that particular striking pattern? I'm like, oh, I see what he was trying to get so that we had this and this step and this step. I'm like, okay, well, I see what he came from. He came to a different conclusion than I would have, but for the same problem. And so we found our own answers for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that about Dog Brothers and how Punang Guru Mark says, and as he just said at the end of the camp today, how it's not his system, it's a Dog Brothers system, and it's a system of many styles and many different expressions, and just like Top Dog was saying, we might not pick the same thing on the menu, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong, doesn't mean that it's, and I'm very curious too of how that traditional background has influenced you guys in your fighting. Because I started with Taekwondo until I was like 9 or 10. I think I got to red belt. And I learned all the traditional kicks. And then at 10, I went into all the hard styles of Muay Thai and boxing and grappling and whatnot. But I feel like I really lost some of those kicks that you guys throw a lot. So like, what is the traditional style? And I'd also like to talk about your gym. But what is the style that you teach at the training mat, which is your gym?
Well, we evolved. The original system we came up from with a version of Kempo. And just like everything else, like you go to one Kempo school, another Kempo school, vastly different stuff.
You can actually see some things on YouTube, and it looks nothing like what we're doing, though it's still considered Kempo. You get other ones out there and going, okay, there's some similarities there. The particular brands that we teach deviated about, I say, 60 years ago, and it goes by the name of White Tiger Kempo, or it's known more towards San Francisco as Bakfu Kempo or Bakfu Do. And the particular branch that we teach, the difference is not only in the system, but also the way we instruct. The vast majority of schools teach strictly in a group class environment. If you want some one-on-one attention, you pay extra. Okay, the way we teach is every individual is different. So every single individual gets individual instruction every single week. Okay, not only
do they also take the group classes, or
that's in addition to the group instruction.
Gotcha.
Included.
It's included. So it's a combination of the two. And the idea is not only to keep them accountable because they know there's a lesson later that week and there's someone there waiting for them, but at the same time, we also develop a rapport and a connection with those students that otherwise that's much more difficult to do in a group class environment.
Yeah.
So that's how we keep them going. Well, going back to the system, the biggest thing that deviated as far as our understanding, was the Kempo is known for its self-defense situations, which teaches basic attacks, common responses to those attacks, and they're called self-defense techniques. That's classic Kempo. What was done is that there was more kicks brought into the system in order to try to balance out the hand technique, and a greater emphasis put on the aggression. So it wasn't just simply doing a technique, it's the mindset, it's the aggressive application, because even though it's self-defense, what are we really doing? We're hitting someone, we're fighting back, and that's not done with intent, that's not done with aggression, it's going to fail, no matter how good your technique is. Okay, so that's been our emphasis, not only in our instruction, but also in ourselves. And that's also another reason why when we got more involved into the Dog Brothers, that we found that it was a good match for our way of thinking, our way of doing things.
And you branched off. You guys are doing jiu-jitsu now, right?
Well, we found out very early on. That's actually a good story to go with this. Our specialty is stand-up. That's what I know. I know how to do the striking aspect. I'm not a ground guy. I know enough to get out of certain situations. Okay, but if I go out there with someone who really knows their stuff, I'm a guppy and he's a shark. So I realize that. So we searched out for how many years trying to find a guy who really knew his stuff.
Well, I mean, right before we even did that, we came from the self-defense aspect, and we're like, okay, look, I don't even know how to wrap my hands. I don't know how to bag. I can do a side kick on a bag, but I don't have all this other stuff. Don't know how to do any ground skills or anything like that. One of the stories we're Kempo, and everyone's got their own story. It really gets kind of political and gets high up there.
Sure.
But one of the stories we heard is originally, and I've got a book by one of the founders of Kempo from Hawaii.
Actually, it's a first edition. It's an actual copy. It's not a reproduction. It was a gift, and I'll never tell you how much that cost me.
Yeah. But the book itself says Kempo Jiu-Jitsu. And so originally, the Kempo system we came from had ground skills. But, I mean, this is the story. I don't know how.
Sure.
This is what I heard. The guy that really brought it to America, Ed Parker, now he's the guy that was really kind of pushing it. He had a bad back. I think he had like a few fused vertebrae. So he didn't like ground skills, so we didn't teach it. And so boom, right there, that whole section just died off. And so like I said, so we were learning a part of a system that really we knew that had these big holes in it. So the first thing we did is we actually we got a...
Keep talking for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, first thing we thought was a striker, or striking class. We needed with we were the first person we went to, Lorenzo? Oh, no, it was Mike Sarkeesian.
Mike Sarkeesian. We went to some of the local MMA schools. Okay, some of them were not run very well. Some of them were run better than others. We actually went to an MMA school that we show up there, and they're supposed to have a 7 o'clock class, and we wait around till like 7:40, and they never show up. Okay, and so we're there by ourselves.
No, actually, we were there with a bunch of people. And
Oh, that's
we're
right.
Like, so the school opened up like, yeah, sometimes they don't show. And I'm like, you guys are still going here? And I'm like, but so we ended up finding a friend who knew a kickboxer who had a good coach, who at the time was Dan Henderson's kickboxing coach. So we're like, sweet. So we started training out of Dan Henderson's school, not with Dan Henderson, but with his kickboxing coach.
And was that in
Temecula,
Marietta?
Marietta,
Yeah.
and then so he really kind of gave us the pieces to for a striking aspect, and then we started the grappling was very like we don't know anything, so we found out I'm forgetting the guy's name, the judo guy.
You're talking about Gene LaBelle's student.
Yeah, something
Hartman.
No, something
Hart.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is, he was highly recommended. He was one of Judo Gene LaBelle's guys, and he was in Santa Clarita.
Now, mind you, you have to understand, we have the belief that if something's worth learning, we'll go.
Sure.
No matter where it's at. Okay. We're here in Pennsylvania right now, and we're
That's a good
based
point.
out of California.
Yep.
Okay, because the thought of being able to train, okay, with the masters that we're talking about, okay, Guru Lonely Dog, Eric Noss, Mark Denny, all under one roof. I'm going, you can't pass this up. Okay, so going back to our first judo instructor, he was in Santa Clarita, which is over 2.5 hour drive one way from where we lived. So we actually drove out there, and seriously, he didn't believe how far away we were. And he even pulled us aside and said, okay, why are you guys taking lessons with me?
And he made us bring in
A documentation.
They had the address on there because he's like
He didn't believe you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't.
He thought we were probably maybe like spies or something like that, but he just didn't believe anybody would drive that far for lessons. Okay, but again, if it's worth the
Sure.
time, we'll do it. But going back to the things, we're trying to figure out our way, and we're trying to fill in these gaps. And at one point, I remember I was asked to serve papers. Okay, basically, someone I knew had a rental property, and the person who rented it messed the place up, and he was suing him because he didn't give him the deposit. He was suing back because of the damage he did to his place. But he didn't tell me he was a big guy, like 6'4", like 240, and really big. And I show up, and I see the guy going, oh, okay, this is not going to be good. And so, I'm supposed to be an uninvolved third party. I don't care. I say, are you so-and-so? And I put it on the hood of his car. I said, okay. It says, that's yours. And I walk off. He says, pick that up. That's okay. Take it with you. I said, I'm not taking it. So I walk off. Now, of course, as I walk off, I can hear the guy walking behind me. And I realize, okay, I have a choice. Either I can keep walking, possibly get hit in the back of the head, or I can turn and face the guy, and I'm in a fight. So I turn to face the guy. Now, mind you, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure I jumped the gun. Okay, what I saw was him grabbing me and rearing back like he's going to hit me. And what he probably was doing realistically, he's going to probably shove the shirt down the paper down in front of my shirt. But all I saw is he put his hands on me. So I hit him. Now, mind you, I'm pretty young, probably about 24, 25. And
you're what, 31 right
okay. Well, yeah, thank you. Okay. You're now my best
Fool me,
friend.
man.
Yeah.
You look great.
Yeah.
Back to the story.
Okay. Well, what happened is that I just learned this grappling thing. Okay, I just learned how to put someone in a guard and pull their head off to one side. And
Evan, go back to the moment when you first learned what a guard was.
Yeah, how about it? Oh, what's that?
Yeah. Because seriously, when the UFC came out, I realized, okay, what do I do if I'm on my back? What do I do if I go to the ground? Didn't know. So I'm doing a lot of self-educating. Wasn't very good. So the guy's trying to grab me, and I'm holding that distance, and I'm hitting him. I said, okay. I'm thinking to myself, this is working really well. And what happened is, as I'm backpedaling, I hit the curb, and I started backpedaling. Now, mind you, I probably could have stayed on my feet, but the problem is I just learned my guard. Okay, so I decided, hey, here's my chance. So I go onto my back, and I lock my feet behind him, pull the head aside. Now, mind you, it's a heated moment, so I'm talking to him in syllables. I mean, I'm holding his head, I'm smacking with my other hand. I said, don't you ever. And as I'm getting into this moment, okay, I hear, now mind you, I'm on my back, and I hear bump, 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 and I see stars. Okay, apparently he had an 18-year-old son who saw the fight going down, and he came out. And luckily for me, it was a kick to the side of the head, not a stomp. I think probably his dad was in the way. Okay, and probably, honestly, I think he probably kicked his dad a little bit. So, I only took portion of the hit because it didn't knock me out, but it broke my cheekbone and things like that. Luckily for me, again, I think he hit his dad partially because I was able to roll him off me and get back up. But that was the first time, I think probably the only time I actually went to the ground in a real fight, and that's the one that got hurt the most. Okay, so I try to stay on my feet. But again, okay, look at the Dog Brothers. Okay, so if you got a determined, committed person with ground skills, and let's admit it, more people have ground skills now than ever before.
Sure,
they're going to take you down.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that I saw when I started fighting in the early 2000s. Was, I'd seen the Gathering of the Pack, which was rather old compared to what people were doing in the early 2000s, but I didn't see that much grappling, and I'm like, jiu-jitsu, and that was my plan. I mean, for the first probably, 5 or 6 gatherings I did, go in under the roof block, thank you Top Dog, crash in, pull guard, submit, and that was all I wanted to play. So yeah, it's interesting how you say that, and now it's gotten to the point where you're going to have a fight on your hands. There's purple belts, brown belts, black belts fighting in Dog Brothers gatherings, and the level's going up.
So now here's something that's kind of fascinating because Lonely would be a good person to ask. I hear that because when I go to the ground, my whole focus on the gathering is to try to end the fight, like go with my knife, do something dangerous, and then get the hell out of there.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever submitted a person, but I've got on top of them and I've indicated a kill shot and fight's done. It. Yeah, or I pulled my knife and I go for the cut. Now the thing is the fighting in Germany, I hear the jiu-jitsu is different, right?
Also, their emphasis is on knife. The use of pulling a knife out of the fight is different. It's not.
They don't use.
No, we don't use. It's. I think it's just a different influence, and I guess I have to take responsibility for that. In the whole idea in DBMA is that there exists like 2 worlds. You have the real world, where self-defense and real world stuff happens, and there's the ritual world, what means like all these dual fighting. I mean,
sure.
It starts from a jiu-jitsu competition, goes to a Thai box fight and MMA, and what we do is nothing else because there's like only 2 guys with some agreement, and we go and fight. So that's the ritual fight. And for me, I had always a hard time to mix the 2. For me, it was always a fight in a ritual space, hard. I learned something. I'm pretty sure it will change me from the inside, that it will help me for the real world, but I never tried to bring the real world into the ritual world. I mean, the real world into a Dog Brother fight. It just, for me, it doesn't felt correct.
Mhm.
I had like really a bad feeling to have this really healthy experience to fight with a friend with sticks, to beat the shit out of each other, but to hug each other afterwards. For me, to pulling a knife, it touches something too much dark in myself, so I can't do it in that kind of circumstance, and I feel that maybe not everybody, but the bigger portion of people in Europe, they appreciate that kind of approach. That's why we don't wear like hidden knives. We see sometimes like knives.
I've seen you pat down people before you fight them, and then you go, okay, let's go.
Yeah, that was especially in America because I didn't want to do it, you know, the hidden knife stuff, because it just doesn't felt right for me. So to avoid that, yeah, I was just patting
Everyone down.
But like we're talking with Denny, this is another evolution. Whereas like with the MMA, you've got the jiu-jitsu, you got the striking, you've got the throw, you've got all the aspects, but it stops at a certain point because there's the competition mentality that I've got to win. And when you got to win, you're more like this is what I take from it. You run the risk of taking that shot or pushing it a little bit too far. And if I'm in an environment where I know that the guy is not going to hurt me, I can add in a whole other element. I can add in that knife skill. I can add that because we're going to respect each other. And like if some guy got to me on the ground and he shows me that knife attack, I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, you show me. This is the environment where I'm a brother.
I'm not questioning the thing. It's just like the experience is just a little bit different.
Yeah.
This is so interesting because my mindset, and I don't think I've ever touched on this, I don't really even think I've talked about it much at all to anybody, is almost directly in between both of you. I don't like hurting people. I honestly don't like hitting people with sticks. I'd rather end the fight as fast as I can with as little damage as possible and then get out and try to get back in. Because what I've always thought was, and not get killed, you know? I've got 2 minutes. Can I finish this fight? Because in a real world situation, you know, that would be useful. In a sports situation, that would be useful, you know? So I would have no problem with them having a knife. I rarely have a knife either, but I'm ready for them to pull it to make sure I can defend myself and see if I can stop them and submit them.
It's a different element that you would have before, where like you can sit in a guard, but if a knife's involved, you can no longer.
You got to watch those hands.
And that.
Yeah, but for me, I absolutely think you can do that kind of training in scenario training. And for me, I don't need that adrenaline state because
in the fight.
Yeah, because to be honest, like there are situations in the gatherings in America where I see, oh, that was interesting when a knife get pulled. But I have to be honest, I get upset if the guy on top pulls a knife and stick it in, because that's murder.
Sure.
You know, if you're underneath and you're in trouble, if you try to do your jiu-jitsu and you get the better end of it and then you pull the knife, that's fair. I mean, that's what you would do in the street.
if you reverse it.
But not if you're already like dominating, you know, you're a mount or whatever, and knee on belly, and then you pull your knife out, and that has nothing to do with the real world, what you could do in the real world.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I mean, it depends on what kind
like
of situation.
you got a bunch of bikers.
Yeah, or you have to protect your family, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Yeah.
just, I see often,
It's emotional nerve. It's not.
yes.
Yeah.
And I just can say, like, personally, I made a decision or an experience where I thought, don't like it. And there was a fight with I had with Nick Papadakis. And nice fight standing up, really technical. We went to the ground. I was underneath him, but not sure if he swept me or whatever. But there was just a moment where he had the dominant position. And I had no knife, like I always have no knife, but he had one. And I just took for myself, I mean, I did something clever for the real world, but for the ritual world, I did like, I took the easy way out. I took his knife and was stabbing him. You know, it's all good, but I was a bit pissed because I was like, damn it. I took a chance from me to work my way out of difficulties, and maybe he could win, you know,
Sure.
and I didn't want to lose maybe, so I grabbed that knife. It felt for me not right in the context of a ritual fight under gentlemen.
feel like I remember that
to achieve a new level. I didn't learn nothing.
Hmm.
I learned, okay, I had awareness to see a knife. I mean, at least this. But come on, I know this. I'm not stupid. But the experience of trying like some martial art technique, I skipped it. It's only my approach, and you know,
Well, yeah, and also I mean it can be a slippery slope. I've seen a lot of terrible knife fights where you got two guys both got knives
Yep.
and they're on the ground, they're just stabbing each other. Like, dude, neither one of you learning anything
Yep.
right now. This
Yeah,
is
it's not useful.
ridiculous.
And also being the old guy in the room. Can I chime in?
Yeah.
Now, my approach on this is actually just a little bit different. Now, I understand the concept behind ritual fighting is to limit you to a very specific set of skills. So, for example, if you're grappling, okay, you're when you roll, you don't do striking. Why don't you? In a real fight, you'd strike. But in grappling, it forces you to go into a deeper level of your skill set and make you grow, make you understand it better. In boxing or kickboxing, okay, well, you know, some versions of kickboxing, they don't allow throws. Okay, they force you in boxing. You're only allowed 4 basic punches, variations of those punches, only from the waist up, and you know there's rules that guide that type of interaction. Why do those rules exist? Not only to prevent serious injury or possibly death, but also to force you to be that much better on that specific set of skills. Now, the thing is, I'm getting old. Okay, I don't move like I did 5 years ago. Hell. Okay, I'm you know 5 years from now I'm going to get even worse. Okay, it's just as things evolve, I'm not going to move the way I used to. I didn't get involved with kickboxing until my late 30s, and I think I had 4 or 5 kickboxing matches. And my last one was with a guy. Now, mind you, I was 38 at the time, maybe 39. The guy, and I was weighing in about 205, and the guy I fought was a 200-pound, 20-year-old Marine. And he fought like a 20-year-old Marine. It was just all attack, okay? And luckily for me, he wasn't very good, okay? And otherwise, if I had got out there and the guy had any skill set, being younger, faster, that big, I could have really got schooled, okay? So that made me think, because if I fight according to those rules, and I limit myself to that, then in the long run, I might have a hard time.
Sure.
So one of my attraction to the Dog Brothers, and this is one of the things that was said to me by Crafty, was you don't fight another man's game. Yeah. I'm getting out there. There are a lot of people out there, okay, who swing sticks a lot better than I do. So my strength is not my ability; it's my versatility. It's my ability to take the fight someplace else where I'm better prepared than he is. So if he can swing sticks better than I am, well, I'm gonna kick him. If he can kick better than I am, I'm gonna punch him. If he can do all that better, I'm gonna tackle him, try to take him to the ground. If he's better on the ground, okay, I'm gonna stand it back up and take it someplace else. If he's better at everything, then I stab him. Okay. But the concept, the biggest thing about the Dog Brothers is the sense of brotherhood. You don't want to do anything that's going to smack of being in bad form, being a punk, taking advantage of someone. And you know, when you get that, it poisons the well.
Yeah.
And I understand exactly where you're coming from, because you said, okay, we have a mutual agreement, and if we have a mutual agreement and I pull that knife out of you, that's like, he says, you know what, I didn't think that's what this was about.
Yeah.
And that takes in a whole different place. But my other thought is if you did go into this and you said, okay, we agreed upon this, okay,
Yeah.
Sure.
And then if that's it, then we both know in advance, if you try to take me to the ground, I am going to try to stab you. Then that's a different situation.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree on that. Yeah.
I fought someone. I won't. In fact, I can't even remember his name. But it was a stick fight, and I lost my stick, and he had a knife, and he threw his stick, and he pulled his knife out, and as he was charging me, he was hackling almost. Like it was an excited energy out of him.
A
And
little darker energy.
it was so uncomfortable that I went like this, and I said, "We're done," because there's something that's not going on that's right in your head right now. And I didn't say that to him at the point in time, but it was like he was excited to come kill me, you know, because that's probably the realest you're gonna get to actually trying to kill someone is in a gathering and you have a knife and you can do whatever you want. So that lends to what you're saying. I mean, that dark side, and that may have had a lot of influence on me of trying to get these fights stopped and not, hurt someone. That dark side of it, you're right, is something that a lot of people, number one, can't handle, and number two, maybe shouldn't.
I think it's good if everybody or that not everybody, but that it can be a good experience if you touched once to that dark side.
Sure.
Why not?
Sure.
I had like several experiences where I felt that, and afterwards I never was like really comfortable about that situation. But that's fine. I'm not against it. I was just questioning if it's, maybe it was my problem, but I think a gathering is something so positive.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to feel that
Negative.
kind of,
Yeah.
and when, like today at the camp, Top Dog was a little bit speaking about saksak and pakal, so having the knife thumb side or having the knife down pinky side, and it just emotionally, I think it's the huge difference.
Sure.
It's not about techniques. It's about if I go thumb side up, so the saksak, the regular grip, I can play, it's fun, I can laugh. If I grab it in pakal, it switches something in me, and that frightens me. There was one fight I remember that really well. I had with Top Dog in Houston. So as usual, before we fight, we do some warm-up fights with the knife, and then I like to dance with Top Dog because it's really technical and it's a chess match and everything. And so usually also the knife sparring is the same. So we start both in saksak, and it was really about playing around, evading and nice. So maybe about 30 seconds in, he switched to pakal. And his personality doesn't change so much. I mean, he's still kind of
Still playing.
He is, yes, he's still playing, but he's playing like more aggressive.
Sure.
You get more the energy, but I think it will not change something in him that much. So, but technically, you have to be careful because he tries to put that thing into you. And if you have like an aluminium trainer, and you saw his power, if a pakal strike comes, better you go out of the way. So I was running away. Until he had pakal, and I think he get bored because he felt Benjamin is not playing anymore, So he switched back to saksak, and I have no clue why. Don't ask me. I don't know, but I switched to pakal afterwards. He switched to saksak. I switched to pakal. It was just something like, what you can do, I can do as well, and just there was no thought. I was just like it switched something, and I was running in and using like 3 powerful pakal strikes, went through his mask, and he had like a hole in the ear.
Jeez.
So I punctured the whole cartilage.
Oh my God.
Yes, I mean, Eric, how he is, was blood all everywhere, and it's like,
Oh, okay.
let's change to stick fighting now, but the injury was not huge, but just what it felt when I went in, I was completely like, rage, killing mode, yeah, and I thought, I'm doing this to a friend,
Yeah.
I didn't like it, so yeah.
Well, we've had this issue in the past, like when do you teach knife fighting in general? Because I mean, there's times like I'll work with a person like, look, I'm going to show you a mechanics. I do not want you fighting knives. Just because you know like 1 or 2 basic mechanics does not mean you're a badass and you're going to go out and fight. You will die.
Yep.
And we had a real hard time. Like, at what point do we wait till black belt? When do we?
Yeah, because the other problem
Because there
with
is
a
an
knife is
emotional contact.
that with a knife, knife is a purely offensive weapon. Okay, it doesn't matter how gently you cut someone, you're still cutting someone.
Yep.
Okay, and whereas with a stick, you can measure the amount of contact. It's not just a weapon; it's also a shield.
Yep.
Okay, and at the same time, you can hit them in the leg so they can't chase after you. You can hit them in the arm and slow them down. You can hit them in the head and do some real damage.
Sure.
Okay, but with a knife, you're stabbing someone.
Yep.
Okay, so the question is, as instructors, where do we draw that line? It says, you know what? I don't know if I should teach that person. Not only, the last thing I want to do is have someone who, under normal circumstances, would have ran. Okay, and then you give them a knife, and they think, oh, I can fight this guy now, and now they stick in the fight, and now what's going to happen? They're more likely to get killed because otherwise they would have followed natural instincts and got out
Sure.
of there, and now they think they know how to fight, and now they're more likely to get killed.
I just have to a story about that. It happened maybe like 5 years ago in Switzerland. So it was quite late in the night, before midnight. So a situation in a main station. So a guy got attacked. Maybe tried to rob him, whatever. So he was alone, and 3 guys attacked him. And that single guy pulled out a knife and wounded the first one. Slashed him, not big, like a flesh wound. And of course, the 3 attackers, they stopped for a second, right? So, oh shit, now he has a knife. And I think that was the moment where the guy with the knife should run.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess he felt like in that moment, kind of like, I have power.
Sure.
So he stood there and was arguing. We fucker, let's go, come again. And so what did they do? They jumped down to the railways, because there was like stones, grabbed stones, and killed him. You know, through stones. Yes. And it's like, oh, what a sad story.
Sure.
Yeah, he did everything right, but just because he had the knife, he had like a wrong sense of
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
That's
like we
interesting.
talk like we focus mostly on self-defense. That's what we teach for the most part. And we branch out, and we have people like, hey, my mother is feeling uncomfortable. Should she carry a knife? Like, absolutely not. Why would you think that's a good thing?
Yeah.
Like, get a flashlight, because if she gets a knife, she's not going to know how to use it. all you
And
can
someone
do is
else could know how to use it.
You're giving them a weapon. If she has a flashlight, she can shine their eyes. She can guide her way as she's running away. And if the guy gets it, all he's going to do is light her.
What kind of podcast is this?
On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Actually, this has been very cool for the listeners. More of a darker kind of podcast with this, but I do want to wrap it around. But to how amazing this weekend was, how positive, everybody loved it. Guru Lonely, your material was awesome. I can't say enough about Top Dog and Guru Crafty. It was just awesome. I can't wait to do it again. I'm hoping next year this time we had beautiful weather. We'll do it again.
We especially on the kind of we're just kind of like this. We're have a high enough level of guys that we can work on that really high end level. That's not the class. This class was amazing. We worked on a huge breadth of material.
Yep.
We got to work with really good guys.
One of the things that I got out of this the most is that you have 3 different guys, 3 different personalities, 3 different body types,
three different fighting styles.
Exactly. But what was interesting is, again, guys, you guys missed out on this. Okay, everyone who did not show up, you missed out on this. This is, to me, one of those once in a lifetime opportunities, because you get to me 3 of the biggest names, okay, in the Dog Brothers in one place, and you didn't show up. Okay, what can I say?
If they're lucky, they'll get their chance next time.
Yeah.
So hopefully next year.
Just very
Sure.
quickly,
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
last thing, because I had a thought like really early in that discussion, and I still want to say that
Yeah,
thought,
let's hear it.
we talked about traditional martial arts, and about like Dog Brother martial art is not like one man's style.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a thought that I want to let out here. It's in martial art, it's a lot about respect, and about, sometimes you hear also about loyalty. And sometimes they mix the two together. They yes. Loyalty is very important, but I think loyalty comes through respect.
Yeah.
And for me, respect comes truly from love.
Good
Good
point.
And like, I was so fed up with martial art politics before I met Mark. I didn't want to do any to be associated with an organization anymore.
And make sure
With a
everyone knows,
style.
everyone here is nodding their head and
Yes.
yeah.
And that feeling of this having a loose leash, that Punanguro is one of the amazing the most amazing thing that hits me is that he gives you an opportunity to find your way.
Yeah.
And he gives you, and I think this is the reason why we are so loyal.
Yeah.
Because we love him, and he has the respect, not because everything is strict.
Sure.
And it's like, us. No, it's because it's that one hand wash the other, is a give and take.
Yep.
And I think this is very important for me. And that in all Dog Brothers, I feel this very much. Everybody respect each other, not because we're badass. No, because we love each other.
Yeah, and you said that when we were in the circle about how it's true though. I mean, a lot of love going on in the room right now.
So here's
But you were mentioning whenever you were starting your session, and those of you that are part of the Members Association, you'll be able to see the camp's going to be up and everything. But you explained how we're in a circle because we're all equal. You know, and it's like, oh, that's deep, and that is so true. And then, real quick, let's end on this. Explain where the heart, mind, and balls fit in, and which one is.
Yes. So, heart, mind, and balls is usually on a triangle, and on the base of that triangle, we have the balls and the mind. For me, that means your intellect. Yeah, how smart the person is, and the balls is how tough you are. And the heart is on top of that triangle. And usually that means when I teach, especially when I teach, is in that moment when I'm teaching, I'm not so interested in how smart these individuals are or how tough fighters they are. That's nice, but that's personally for them important. But for me, it's really where they have their heart, where they have their passion. Because I said like poison for teaching is ego. Yeah, and ego gets destroyed by people who think they're smarter than others or thinking they're tougher than others.
Sure.
But if you have love, that's what never kills the ego. So, and that's the reason why I really like that triangle, that the passion, the love for what we do should be on top.
That's good. We're not all sweaty psychopaths with sticks. We're all lovers too. So awesome. Well, thanks guys. We're gonna wrap it up, and this has been fun.